you're keeping busy, obviously. So you're working with the Startup Academy. You're leading a startup. You're also, I think, speaking on the subject of leadership in an era of remote teams. I mean, how do you find the world that we're in now? I mean, you've got a very specific group of people that you work with. There's a lot of coders there, I imagine. So there's, particular types of people. But I mean, how do people need to adapt in this sort of climate and this environment?
Yeah, I think one thing is that we've all been thrown into it from one day to another, so nobody had time to prepare. And those companies who had prepared before, be it simply from hardware and from services they could actually profit a lot. I've heard of friends who run IT companies who, if they had invested heavily in this before, they didn't even see one dime less of revenue this year, right? So it's a big difference, but it's also, I always say that it's the leaders have to be aware of their special role in this, because everybody's looking at them in the crisis, to take over that leadership in a much stronger way, and also in a much more communicative way. Yeah. And if, as a leader, you're not really able to use a video conferencing tool, you actually lose all respect, because people are scared and they're waiting for your directions, right? And so it's not only that it's home office, it's like everyday home office. And it's not only that it's a new, cool, flexible work structure. We're in the middle of a crisis where people are scared to leave the house and to fall sick, with a different psychology behind it. And I've seen teams where actually leaders have lost all respect of the team because they weren't able in that digital world to lead, because they didn't understand the technology simply, even though they might be wonderful leaders otherwise. And I've seen people who really, thrived, because I always say this situation in this crisis, being at home with, this remote type of leadership during the crisis, is like a magnifying glass. If you had any underlying problems before, either from performance in the team, atmosphere between leaders and teams, then it's going to probably explode on you under this pressure. And if you had a fairly good and solid team atmosphere, people were communicating properly, and people were okay to work sort of independently, you're probably gonna thrive so fast in terms of performance, and people coming up with new great ideas and format, becoming all creative. They probably all of a sudden work day and night because there's no natural border for them to stop working. So you will see the opposite.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you were to give leaders out there a single piece of advice around how they can work more effectively, or lead more effectively, or, make their teams more effective during these times, what would that be?
Well, I think the one thing is to be far more in contact than you have been before, and put up a solid like a calendar setup for meetings and platforms to not have formal meetings, but to exchange, the private part. We, for example, we do a morning call every day at 10. Which is actually voluntarily from Monday through Friday, but everybody comes, and it's a very informal exchange. After you've done your first emails in the morning and sorted it, you have an informal chat with your coffee in your hand. Who does what are the news, who needs to talk to whom, and just basically as if you had a breakfast meeting. And that brings the team together. For us, it's also important. I have a lot of young people who live in small apartments alone. Some of them are international, just moved into the country, don't speak the language, and you give them sort of like a structured day to start the day. And I think it's very important not to forget to bring in these informal mingling and networking times, because when you're at work, somebody walks by your office, says hi, you walk to the coffee kitchen, have a chat, you go for lunch, all of this is gone. So if you don't do this, there is zero interaction. And we're social beings. We want to be, we want to be with people and talk to people. So like So like my team wanted to have beer at 4, you know, you people can choose. I have a open door chat conference once in a while in my office, and people can just pop in on MS Teams or Zoom or anything. I think it's very important to have a good structure from all formats.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's some wise words there. I think that access and that you know, trying to recreate that the softer side of you know, a work environment. So like that water cooler moment, or that, you know, and ideas and inspiration and creativity come during those moments as well, don't they? It's not just about mental health.
Yep.
It's actual inspiration.
People need this, right? We go to work and to life basically because we're social beings. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, I mean, if you were to rewind your career a little bit back to being in a corporate and leading a procurement function, given what you know now from the startup world and the journey that you've been on since leaving the, you know, Deutsche Telekom as it was then, what would you do differently? I mean, is there something that you feel, yeah, you know, I missed a trick here while I was in the corporate world, I could have done this and it would have been more effective?
Actually, I have to say I was quite lucky because I had very understanding environments of, you know, being able to mingle outside, do a lot of networking like we also did together, right? To be on boards of network organizations. Always, even when I was in the corporates, I always had board members who totally understood how valuable this is for the company and what it brings back. I can't really say that I missed out on something there. All I can say is like whenever, for my personal taste, whenever I got too far up away from my products and my customers, and also from the time I got to spend with my team, this is when I got unhappy. And, you know, when I thought, okay, you know, what is my job again? And where's my products and my people and my customers, right? So that's when I very often started thinking, shouldn't I do something else now?
Yeah, okay. Would you ever see yourself heading back into the corporate world, or do you think you're now on a different journey and it's kind of...
Well, I think you should never say never, right? But I love, whether it was in the corporate world or now in the startup world, what I love is if you get that freedom to really create across several different areas and really do something, and not just be in one single area that has been given to you, and people actually want to play with that and are interested to get new impulses. If you have that atmosphere, it doesn't matter so much whether it's a smaller or a bigger company. Of course, in a smaller company, you have to be prepared to roll up your sleeves much more than you're used to before, and that has to be okay with you. I don't mind that. I like that. I like to also build the teams to strong teams. So it probably very much depends on what kind of company culture you're in. You can also be in a 30 people startup and be like in an old company, right? It depends on the company culture.
Yeah, sure. All right, Eva, it's been good to catch up. I mean, any final thoughts on, you know, on the startup world, on how, you know, you do things differently there compared to the corporate world?
Yes, I mean, the best thing is, and that's also what I do with the NativeWaves team now, is that you can, and also my own company, Geistesblitz, which is, you know, which I invest in companies with. We basically get to create far more and question the status quo far more. We're not dependent on whether we already have a product or a process or a person. It's much more bringing what is relevant, what is necessary, and what makes sense from a business point of view and feels good to the team together. And I think this is something which all companies should follow, whether they're big or small, because it keeps the people happy, it keeps the business running, it gives better results. Yeah, it's just a winner.
A win-win. Cool. Good stuff. All right, Eva, great to catch up. Good luck with it all. We'll be looking out for NativeWaves and it debuting on the NASDAQ or the wherever it is.
See you there.
See you there, yeah. But
speak about you guys too, huh? See you there.
You never know.